Welcome to episode 83 of Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Eddie, and here at amDirt, we strive for greatness in everything we do, albeit terribly. But at least we're consistent. We try to crunch the numbers to how our AMD works and how to shuffle everything thoroughly so our decks are nice and even. We try to make sure we play the game through the eyes of the enemies as to not give ourselves an unfair advantage. But at the end of the day, the three guarantees in life, death, taxes, and someone we all know placing their null within the top two cards of their deck. Well, allow me to introduce my co-host and the player who single-handedly made the last few scenarios unachievable as he fluffs most of his impactful attack abilities. Gaz! Say hi, Gaz.
Hi, Gaz. Yeah, it definitely feels like that. I feel like I'm letting the team down through being cursed of picking, drawing cards.
Can you explain that this has been happening for a couple of weeks and it's funny and it's lol, all that kind of good stuff. But you actually went really out of your way this time to change things. You took advice from Lunacy. You've you've searched the internet for how to fix this and all that kind of stuff. But you had your biggest attempt this week. How did that go?
Well, yeah. So to set the scene a little bit, and I won't go into too much, but I was thinking about this during the week, right? And I feel like this, and it's not rolling badly purely just from I feel my luck is down. It's literally the null card, like that card that says the attack doesn't do anything other than status effects. And I was thinking about it today, and I was like, this almost feels like that cliche urban development kind of thing where, it changed so gradually that we didn't even notice. Because I feel like this has been going on for a while. And we joked about it, I think, with maybe my banner spear, about how I had the null on top a little bit, but I was drawing maybe more cards than it didn't really matter because you have kind of hit targets, blah, 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 right? And so I kind of feel like maybe it was happening and I didn't notice. And then the threw different characters like the prism and the shards and blah, 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 anyway. So and now it's at this point where I'm like, hang on, this is really bad. Like this has got really bad. So
beyond a joke.
Yeah, but
it's still funny.
It's still funny, but it's kind of like, is this a serious problem?
Yeah.
And to the point where, as someone who has has bad luck or has this thing in their life they can't deal with, and they've tried all the natural things, like all the normal things you do. They've tried some of the non-normal things, and now they're starting to go, I know this dude who knows a witch doctor. I wonder if they can solve it, right? So we've talked about it a bit, and recently, and I'll take you through just the events of because I made note of this, and that's from the best of my memory, is that one of the listeners, our Lunacy, mentioned that maybe I should cut my deck, right? Because I've been shuffling, I've gotten Phil to shuffle it, I've gotten you to shuffle, I've got Mark to shuffle, and it doesn't seem to make any difference. So they were like, okay, why don't you cut the deck? I was like, sure, right? Like, I mean, that makes sense. I'll give that a crack. So the start of the scenario we did, I actually forgot to cut my deck. So I just shuffled it as per normal and went. And I was drawing great. Like, not like off the charts amazing. Actually, I think my first one was my +3. So I said to Phil, like, oh, this is different. I like this. Like, there is one of those in my deck and there's one null. Why couldn't I just keep drawing the +3, right? And I forgot to shuffle my deck. Now, I think after 5, 6, 7, 8-ish cards or something, I think I did draw my crit. So it was kind of like a decent run. And I'm only attacking once, maybe twice a turn sometimes. So I got through a bit and I was like, yeah, this is good. This is good. Cool. And then I was like, I did forget to cut my deck. I'm just going to count and see. So I counted and the null was exactly halfway through my deck, right? And I was like, oh, okay, that could have been really bad. Like, this could have been I just cut my deck and bang, smack on top, the null was, and it would have just been, okay. So I was like, I dodged that bullet. Great, cool. I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't cut it, okay? So went on, and I'm almost certain that within the top 2 cards, I pulled my null right after my shuffle. Right now, when I say top 2, it's mostly if that's because I attack with advantage or disadvantage, and that's why we always look at top 2, because I try to give myself advantage as much as I can because of this curse. Yes. But sometimes I get muddled, and I'm like, well, I'm screwed, right? So therefore, it was another shuffle. So I went, okay, I'm gonna try and beat fate, because at this point I think it's fate that's getting me. It's not. It's just like so I've got to try and trick it, and I feel like maybe I did like a Final Destination trickingness when I was supposed to cut it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So like I got like all this good luck, and I was like, aha. So I started shuffling, and I said, Phil, close your eyes, okay, and tell me when to stop shuffling. All right. So I was shuffling. So this got nothing to do. I wasn't looking. I was just shuffling, and he said stop. So I stopped. Then I said, Phil, pick a number between 1 and 20. Okay. And I said 11. So I was like, great. So I counted 11 cards off the deck, put them on the bottom, right? It's equivalent of cutting, right? And did that. And then put the deck down. Top card was a null. The top card was a null.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
You know what that is? That is one of those street performing things where you walk up to a bunch of people having lunch in a cafe and you're like, watch this. Pick a number between this, blindfold, etc. Is that your card? And
Yeah,
it's just like, whoa.
100% is pick a number between 1 and infinity. Oh, did I get it right? That's crazy. It must be because I'm from the future, right? So that blew my mind, and I know that Phil also was mind blown because he was involved in it. I think you and Mark were doing something else when we were doing that.
I was distracted. That's why I wanted this recap.
Yeah, and I had to stop and go, guys, like I have to tell you what just happened because this is just bonkers. If it had stopped there, right, then kind of go okay, right? Like that's 2 misses, 1 crit. That's not that bad luck, right? Especially in not a lot of draws. Mark shuffled my deck. The first 2 cards were +1s. Great, good. He's got me over this curse. I got cursed, like actual curse in the game. So I had to shuffle a curse into my deck. I shuffled, next card was a null. Like what?
Not even the curse.
Not even the curse, the null. I'm pretty sure I drew my null again before the end of the scenario as well.
Yeah.
Just through, but I didn't see the crit again. And so that's like not just 4 times versus the 1 crit, which again, if this was just this one scenario, you'd be like, oh, that was bad luck. But this is the trend. It's just crazy. And I think it's just to the point where people are like, why don't you try this? I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I have to try to give myself advantage in like as many ways as possible. But I don't want to use like a muscle pot on just like an attack 4. Like, I'm doing a normal attack. I better use a muscle pot so that I don't miss because I can guarantee it's on the top.
There are other items than the muscle pot. Muscle pot's definitely needed. You need that. You need the vigor one. You need there's another pot that I think you had it on the crab. If you draw your miss, you can convert it into a +0 or something like that.
Yeah.
You need one of those.
Yeah.
You need any item that gives you advantage for chests, boots, and all that. Luckily, we're going through all of those in the last few weeks. So, I think we can make this work. I think that we just need to put all of our chips onto you and make sure I'll grab all my I'll swap to a support Gemini. I'm going to get all my heal cards that have a little enhanced thing. I'm saving up for strengthen so that I can throw them on you. Just everything. And we're going to make this a thing because you can't bring this to Crimson Scales.
I mean, who knows, right? Is this a Frosthaven thing? That's what I mean. Like maybe it was just hidden for so long that I didn't realize. And I was playing the crab a lot. Like the coral does advantage attacks a lot, multiple attacks. So maybe I didn't notice it. Banner Spear was like, I miss a couple of times. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's it's pretty crazy. I mean, I feel like if I've just really embraced and I'm more like a what do they call a method actor from a like amDirt perspective, you know, like people go, oh, is amDirt really a thing? I'm like, oh, I'll show you. Like it is.
You're carrying us.
I am definitely, yeah. So anyway, that is my story. It has been many weeks in the building, and I think it was that one moment with Phil where I tried to create so many things that, and it just was like, bang, flip it over. This is just stupid now.
Yeah, I might have to get you to take the AMD home, get Pen to shuffle it, get the kids to shuffle it, that kind of stuff. Bring it back. We'll get Calvin to do it. We'll post it to New Zealand, get Ricewind to do it, and then we'll post it back. And
yeah, actually, I need Ricewind from conversations in the Discord will be my go-to shuffle person, like shuffle dude. So yeah, I feel like he might need to come over.
Yeah.
I wonder what Express Post in New Zealand costs and if it's worthwhile bundling it up, sending it over, and then coming back. I mean, it could get expensive, but it might be worth it.
Totally. On today's episode, following our DirtSheet, we're going to have a chat about our next project. No one knows what that is. Gee. We'll chat about our scenario of the week, which is scenario 97, program control nexus, and we also did jump into scenario 98, collapsing vault vent, collapsing vent. And we continue our series on the hits and shits, covering our boot items in Frosthaven. All right.
All right.
So, important news in my personal life. Today's the day I do an embryo transfer. Now, for those that don't know, I'm been on this journey for 2.5 years to try and have children, and we've basically been doing this overseas in California and from Australia. And today has been the day where they've officially taken one of the frozen embryos. This is the first one. It's one of mine into our surrogate that we actually have there, which means in 2 weeks' time I could become pregnant. So it's a big milestone. I've had the photos of the embryo sent to me. It's been a really weird day for taking all of that in. And that's what I was saying to you earlier when I was recording. It's like, I've just woken up, there's emails here. I've gotten direct messages from my surrogate saying, hey, everything went well and all that kind of stuff. I went and woke up Calvin, who's still sleeping because he's on holidays. And I just said, oh my God, this has happened. And he's just got this big smile on his face. So it's been a really progressive day, and it's been really cool in that way.
That's amazing, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. So we're not there yet, obviously, but every step, little baby steps. But yeah, it got me wondering a couple of things just quickly. How old is too old or too young to introduce the kids to the Haven series?
I don't think there is an age. I think
no. Bring them straight back and get started.
Flip cards, right? They can.
You can't even flip cards.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I mean. Like the worst that can happen is you know all the time.
Yeah. If they get rules wrong, do I or they want to cheat a little, do I get to berate them on the pod?
Nah. The whole thing about being a kid is you can get away with cheating a little. It's like kind of baked into the player.
Yeah, okay. And what if little Daddy replaces me on the pod?
I mean, I'll probably cop less shade.
Not if I raise them the way that, I'm just like, okay, the 3 laws, and make sure that you give Gaz a bit of grief every week.
That's true. From having 2 kids, I definitely know how much shade they can throw, and they throw it when they don't realize they're throwing it, and it can actually be quite hurtful when you realize that they don't know what they're saying. So
that organic,
yeah, exactly. Pain. It's like, wow, that came from a really just inside you place that you did not realize that was what you were saying.
Yeah. I realize that this puts an interesting curveball into next year. I'm not too sure 100% how that's going to work with the pod and all that, but I will make something work. If not, I will hand the reins over to Gaz for a bit. I will deal with all of that next year, but this is just me early thinking about what we're going to do. But yeah,
make it work.
Make it work, exactly. In other news, I work as a dermal therapist, so I laser people's faces and correct pigmentation and do anti-wrinkle stuff and all that kind of stuff, right? I work in the beauty industry, and that's what I do for a job. A lot of my clients know about my journey, and a lot of my clients know about the pod. They have no idea what it's about, but they know about the pod, and they support everything that I do, and we've just got great rapport and great relationships as a job. I love what I do. I've been doing it for years. One of my clients rocked up and handed me a bag, and she said, this is for... Also, I'm throwing a lot of random information out there. I got married about 2 months ago to Calvin. So she said, here's your belated wedding gift. And I've just gone, oh my God, I'm so awkward with gifts. And I just sat there, and my sister was watching. And I was like, how do I've never been able to open a gift and give the genuine thing that people want. It's been very rare. Okay, you gave me Silton Flicks, and that made me really happy and really excited. That was genuine. But my sister likes to give me ornaments that I hang around the house. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. It's like a statue. And it's, I'm terrible at that.
Gift reactions are really hard, because if it's genuinely like, oh my God, I can't believe this is the thing I'm opening. Sometimes that's like, you
can't react.
Yeah, it's like a shit reaction, because you're just like, oh my God, like,
and they're thinking,
you don't look happy. You're not making these, you're not doing the 64 kid dance, right? Like, and you're like, no, but like my emotions at the moment. But then on the flip side, if it's shit, you're like, whoa, yeah, I can't believe you got me that. How did you know? How did you find that? Like, whoa, So yes, present reactions are difficult even at the best of times.
Yes. So she handed me the bag, and I immediately, as I'm reaching in, going, oh, you shouldn't have, you silly, like, I don't expect anything, all the generic responses to that kind of stuff. I reached in to pull out what it was. Oh, yes.
Was it Crimson Scales?
No, it
Okay.
was not. It was not. What it was this.
Oh, wow.
I have two.
Oh, nice. Nice. So you can dual wield.
So she as a client, she played Gloomhaven. Funnily enough, we just randomly talked about that during a session where, as I'm treating her, I just said, what are you into, or how's life, all that, and she said, oh, I'm playing board games. I'm like, oh, interesting. What do you play? And she says, oh, you won't know about it, but it's called Gloomhaven. And I was like, oh, funny you should say that. I do know about it, but this is before we did the pod, so we've been talking for years about everything. And then I told her we were starting the pod. She hasn't played Frosthaven. Her boyfriend or husband now has discovered Magic. And
Gathering.
we have, yes.
Okay,
and
yeah.
we our treatment sessions now are therapy sessions as well, because I'm trying to get her through his addiction and correct. So they're not playing Frosthaven, so she hasn't followed our pod or anything like that. She's just supporting me. But the fact that she went out and made these with no prompt or anything like that is so cool. I feel like a talk show host now. Just feel like one of those, right? Yeah.
Well, now I can ask, because I've never had the opportunity to. It's like late nights with Deddy. What's actually in the mug? Because I always see them take it, and I'm like, I'm sure it's not coffee, and it's probably not water. Like, is it hard liquor?
Oh, I poured my Pepsi into it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm still doing Pepsi on the pod. So
why not?
Get in contact with us, Pepsi. But yeah, that's it. That's all. I've just had those two important things, and
I'd love to do merch. Like, I would love to do merch, because I think it would be really cool just to have other people have stuff. Like, I always liked it when podcasts did like stickers, or I played a few different card games and they'd have tokens and things you'd use that with and I thought that stuff was really cool. But I have also looked into it, and it's really expensive. Like, it's not, and we're in Australia, so literally most people we would send it to, it would cost more to print it than it would to get to them.
They're more our money's worth, yeah.
If anybody, I mean, like, honestly, if anybody has any ideas about how it would work, like, come at us, because I think it's something we'd be open to. But yeah, it is a really cool kind of thing to see our logo on shit. So
I love our logo. Like, I'm not biased or anything, but it's just so cute. It's just so cute. It's an angry dinosaur. The other thing, very, very quickly, is it is on Crimson Scales. We did release our unboxing. We talked about the changes, which we released a couple of days ago. So Gaz, who had never heard any of the rules prior and didn't know what the changes were, I like keeping a lot of things that way so I can get a raw reaction out of Gaz. I enjoy being able to do that, and I think he likes it too. I don't know, being ambushed.
Yeah, it's easy. I like think of my fate. It's better.
Yeah. We have an active poll at the moment currently on our Discord, our amDirt Discord. I've also put one up on the YouTube, so if you go into the community tab, you can actually see there's another poll there with the images similar to what you've done with the 5 different groups. Please jump on, and if you know absolutely nothing about Crimson Scales, but you enjoy what we do, please vote. Vote for one of the groups, and like you said in our Discord, the people who know the least, some of the purest votes, because they have no idea and we have no idea. There's no right or wrong here, right?
And I think the plan from here will be, once the group is selected. So for those that, again, not sure about how it all works, is unlike Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, you don't just have 6 starter classes and you pick from that. You pick one of these kind of starting groups, and that gives you the 4 characters you have that you start with. So once this is determined, we'll likely throw it out to the 4 of us and say, hey, which icon do you like, which symbol? With the idea of not doing any prep and looking into it, and then just kind of open them up and have a crack. So if you just choose one based on the symbols, you're going in with as much information as we are. So that's why I'm like, if you think those symbols look cool and the words sound great, then go nuts. Like, that's that your vote is as valid as everyone else's.
Yes, 100%. And we're very pumped. We're very pumped to go into this, but at the same time, we're still going to uphold the respect for Frosthaven. We're not going to just talk about it very loosely or very roughly or anything like that. I still have a bunch of content that I'm releasing for it. We still have tier lists. We still have top 10s. We've got our scenario top 10s coming through, best and worst, which I cannot wait to record. We've got our monster tier lists. I've got, and ultimately we're going to be releasing a big review for it. So there's still a lot of Frosthaven content in the pipeline. It's not that we're rushing straight into Crimson Scales. It's more of a future planning kind of thing. And the excitement also, because I'm going to be real with you, the excitement of knowing that we're transitioning into Crimson Scales is making Frosthaven also still quite exciting. I don't know what that is, and why it's having that effect. But I'm still enjoying every session. It could be the Gemini. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think knowing what's coming next has meant that we're not just treading water in Frosthaven. You know, we've got an amount of scenarios we're going to finish up before we wrap up. We do have our views and a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, but it's given us something exciting. And Crimson Scales being how big and how new it is for us is something we have to prep for. Like, we couldn't just run for the next 6 or so weeks of Frosthaven, finish it, and then the following week just start Crimson Scales.
Correct.
Because we want to prep. But I think the other thing I was thinking about, and we're talking about this as well, was that while Crimson Scales might not be everyone's jam, because I think it's, I mean, as popular and as well done as it is, I don't think it's like it wasn't played as much as, say, Gloomhaven, right? Because it was limited print run and all that kind of stuff, hard to get. So people who maybe aren't into Crimson Scales, we want to kind of take you on the journey that we're going on now so that you can potentially get interested and excited and then follow along. Yeah. You know, it just gives you a chance to not just have this clear cut of like, oh, we're going to talk about this completely different game you've never heard of and you know nothing about, so therefore there's no interest. You can kind of share and come on our discovery journey as well, because we're going to try to make sure that's as pure as possible. You know, share those moments, share those discoveries, so you can kind of be along.
But there is a caveat here. Crimson Scales in its entirety is available on Tabletop Simulator. So Tabletop Simulators, if you don't have it, it goes on sale. It's usually $20. Sometimes that's AUD, by the way. Usually it does jump down and go on sale to half price. It's, you know, there's unlimited games out there that you can try and play. I'm not too sure how the piracy thing works with it, but you know, they're there to use.
Steam Workshop.
Right?
You go to the Steam Workshop and you click the game and you get it for free.
Correct. So if it's something that if you've got a friend or someone that you can play with, you can play this online on TTS. You can jump in Discord and you can do that. So it's even accessible. It's definitely limited, like no print run anymore, no future to bring any more out, but you can still play it in its entirety. And this is something that I considered doing it on TTS with you guys, but then realizing that we enjoy our in-game, in-player sessions around the table, and that works better for us, for our enjoyment. But yeah, it's still definitely available for everyone. If you have any ideas, just back on Frosthaven, if you have any ideas or you want to suggest a list or a top 10 or a tier list or whatever, I'm happy to hear all the ideas, just because if there's something interesting out there that we hadn't considered, you know, you can PM us, you can message us on Discord, you can, if you're watching this on YouTube, write it in the comments below, so I can gather any ideas of other things that may be floating around that I can put towards for Frosthaven, especially in the next week and a bit where I've actually got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We will be closing out Frosthaven over the next month or two.
Which is exciting in itself, because like now we can look towards the last few side scenarios that have been recommended and then the final run. And I'm really pumped to see how it closes off, right?
Same.
You know, especially because we've had such a up and down moment experience with things that I feel like this has to have been thought about, of like, this has to be great. Like these last 3 scenarios have to be amazing.
Yep.
I mean, really, they have to be, right? Like 100%. My expectations need to be like off the charts.
Yeah, okay. No pressure.
No pressure at all.
All right. So we basically repeat scenario 97. And I'm not going into all of the things that we did, but what changes did we make? Do you remember any of this? I'll give you a hint. Pets. We completely ignored the mechanics.
Oh, you know, with how we went about it. Yeah. We picked our pets, because normally if we fail a scenario, we pick our pets randomly. If we fail a scenario, we'll look and go, okay, if we select our pets, does it make a difference?
Because we blame the pets. So if we lost,
100%.
It's the pet's fault, and we go, okay, it's clearly because we brought Whiny and, you know, Weedy. Yeah. And we then pick. So yeah, who do we go with? We went with
Ooze, Ooze 74.
And Susu?
And I believe Susu. So the Susu is the forest imp which heals, and the Ooze is Dwarf is the Ooze
creates an obstacle.
Creates obstacles. Yeah. So if you remember from last week, we talked about there's like this little weird corridor bit right in front, which we used the Ooze to block one of those off, so we could funnel The goal was have the boss jump to us and let's kill the boss and then
Mhm.
just try to ignore most of the monsters. So the more we could bunch them up at the start and kind of do a 300 this is Sparta kind of wall and hold them back, the better. And then we just pump damage into the boss.
Yeah, I mean, we did get talking about why other groups would like did we struggle so much, especially with the half damage. But I've come to the acceptance that our group we still are new with a lot of the characters we're playing with Drill, with Shackles, and with my Gemini. And we're still discovering the synergies, if there is any, and how that all comes together. And we don't have a lot of pure damage, like at least that I've seen. The only person that's pumping out pure damage is Mark on the Shackles, and it worked a treat on this because he was doing exceptionally well at redirecting and getting off good retaliate turns, like crazy good retaliate turns. All that pure damage, it's double for what we could pump out, and that made a massive difference for burning the boss down.
Yeah,
I can't remember how many rounds it lasted.
Yeah, it wasn't heaps. I reckon we got
also the rule correction was also helpful as well, so that the boss wasn't blinking every round.
Yeah, that's right. He wasn't leaving and jumping all over the place. So yeah, I don't know if there was any major moments for memory. Like it was just people played well. We did group up the monsters at the start. We kind of got lucky with some of the AMDs. The monster ability.
Oh yeah.
But there was a not a ruin machine, the steel automaton standing next to me for basically the entire thing because I was like, I'm not going to bother putting damage into that, and maybe attacked me like twice or three times. It kept pulling its like shield retaliate card or something else. I mean, it did stun me at one stage, which wasn't great, but the bolt shooters refused to move, so they were constantly out of range. They were like they were doing their best imitation of a black imp.
Pretty much. Blade Spinners never Beybladed to us, like on this one. They did a lot of retaliate. And a lot of maybe, I can't remember if it's move one or move a little bit and then hit everything around them. But because of the blockage and they weren't flying to us, they kind of got stuck in that queue. And the rune machines kept muddling people. The move 3, muddle something within range 1 and take a damage or something. And I was like, oh, this is working out. Really,
being
really
muddled sucks, but it's way better than taking heaps of damage. So
especially
I think the exception. Well, early on they did pull the self-destruct. I think Phil got booked by one and blamed me. Because I pointed out that they were doing that, so he killed one, and I didn't point out that another one was also going to come and do it. I was like, mate, like, come on, you can look as well, like it's right in front of you. So I think early on it was rough, but then things leveled out a little bit, and we didn't get that bad of kind of a luck in both initiatives and monster abilities.
Yeah.
But we completely ignored the mechanic at all. Like the only mechanic that we played to was the fact that it takes half damage, because that would be cheating if we didn't.
Yeah, everyone just had a roll. You sort of sat on the side against that automaton, just holding his attention, to the point where you couldn't even leave anymore because I think you just kept getting chain immobilized in that spot. Mark was doing his retaliate, and his timing was really good compared to previous timings. He was on top of all that. Phil was stabbing everything, and I was looking for formations and trying to stick within a certain range. And that was it. That was it. It worked out really well. We burned it down. We didn't increase or decrease the difficulty. And overall, like, did it change the way you felt about the scenario? Because
I think in all, like, it's a really well designed scenario, except for the fact that you don't have to do the mechanic, which means that it's probably not that well designed.
Yeah, it's a bit. Do they make it harder or make the boss, have water return or something dumb like that? It doesn't make sense. I'm not too sure what they could have done to.
Yeah, I think there needs to be I think they need to tie in the mechanic into the scenario, not just make it an alternative way of fighting the boss. I don't know how, and I don't want to redesign it because people are way smarter than me did the design, and I think it's a really cool idea.
Oh, I love the idea.
It just felt easier to brute force your way through the half damage. But even when we tried to do it the last run, it felt clunky to do. Like, it wasn't that this was quicker. It's like that the mechanic of getting the monsters cards and playing them felt really clunky and hard to make work. So it's kind of not a efficiency effectiveness thing. It was more like a one-way works and one way. I just couldn't really see how controlling the monsters was going to make us win. And so,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see more people get their experiences with this and how many groups actually utilize the mechanics in a very effective way. But I have a feeling that a lot of people, especially now in the age of the internet, if you're struggling with something, you look up how, and people are like, just brute force your way through it. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. So yeah. But other than that, no, I love the idea. I think it's a well thought out and incredibly thematic. Everything was really good. It was just, yeah, brute force.
Especially from a flavor perspective, where this is supposed to be like a rogue segment of the unfettered that wasn't a part of the main thing that shut down, so it works as a side scenario. That this is like the factory making them, right? Like the program director is making these robots and doing that. It really did kind of fit in with that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Thanks, guys. I didn't know this was the origin story.
The origin story of what?
Unfettered. Is it not?
I don't know. Maybe it is. Yeah, this is where they originated.
I don't know.
That's cool. I like it. Yeah,
we should probably pay attention. The next bit would be the DPS on this actual one. So just quickly, I'm only going over the actual damage, guys. You had 20 on the drill. This is on our second attempt. Mark had 42 on his shackles. Phil had 49. I had 45. So yeah, pretty good. I like that. Mark actually said he updated how he felt about the scenario. He said it's a real shame the best way to complete the scenario was to ignore the mechanic. I feel like a tweak in the map layout and positioning of the pressure plates would have made this more relevant. Still a cool scenario and an interesting puzzle. We then move on straight to the link of scenario 98. This is collapsing vent, and this was designed by Zachary. Now, it says COHN, which to me is like John. So I'm going to go with Con. But that doesn't sound very nice. I don't know. It just sounds... it could be. But it could be Cohen. I'm not too sure. And writing by Alexander Theo Harris. So it sounds like Alexander's just gone, hey, I'm going to write this one. You're doing it, Zachary. Yep. And that's what we got.
Hand a ball to the work experience kid, right?
Maybe. So why this scenario? So you battled with the program director who wanted to decontaminate the facility by beheading you cleanly. That didn't sound too appealing. So you defended yourself and destroyed it. That deactivated all the cleaning robots and also started collapsing the whole complex. Time to make a clean getaway. See what you did there, Dwarf. See what you did there. Scenario goal. The scenario is complete when all the characters have escaped. At the end of that round, read a thing. So this is the trio chain of scenarios. First one was escape. Third one was escape. Makes sense. It's like a bank heist. Get in there, spend some time in there, and then get out. And also, I get dread whenever I see the escape word. Scenario effect, all characters will suffer 3 damage for some. Monster combinations, we had Ancient Artillery, Black Hymns, Burrowing Blades, and Spitting Drakes. Whenever there's Burrowing Blades, I get a little nervous that it's going to be cleverly implemented, like the last one that we did. Thank you to Summers, Mr. Summers. The pets this time, we had Stu and we had Ricewind. Stu, oh, maybe we didn't have Stu last game. I'm not too sure. Stu is the healing forest imp. Ricewind is the snow imp with the +2. With just move 2 in initiative order. We tried this on difficulty +1, which made it scenario level 4. A party consisted of me on the Geminate. I'm still level 4. Getting XP on the Geminate is kind of shit.
It's real, real shit. Yep, especially
on
when
scenarios. You have escapes.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Gaz on his drill at level 5, I believe. Mark's shackles on level 5, and Phil's blink blade level 6. And then time for something a little bit different with the way I'm going to present this. So the overall premise of the scenario is you need to escape. The map is made up of 5 tiles. You begin on the first one that has a door at the end of it. And the first tile has a bunch of shit that you need to kill, such as the Black Imps and Ancient Artillery and Spinning Drakes, or you can make a mad rush towards the exit. Every time you open a door, a special rule will kick in, which is consistent with the rest of the scenario. So basically the door opener is going full HONULL mode. And I wonder how many people actually said that or thought that in this scenario when they were playing it. So what actually happens is they open the door, and the minute they move off the hex, the previous room basically begins to collapse. And at the end of the round, all figures on that previous tile, once that thing has activated from the person leaving, will suffer 10 damage, which is pretty cool and ups the tension. And this happens at every door. So every room, with killing or dodging enemies, whatever you're deciding to do, you'll eventually find the exit. It's a small empty room with no enemies in it, which was really relieving, and 4 escape hexes. Okay, so that's the general premise of the scenario. What were your thoughts on preparing for this scenario? Obviously, we didn't know about the special rules just yet, but it's an escape scenario, so surely you've gone in with a plan that's not involving missing.
No, that's part of my plan. I have to factor that in. Yeah, I just took a couple of other cards that had bigger movements on them, I think.
Based on the first one we did, I struggled with movement. So Mark was literally looking at me the whole time I was building my deck for the scenario, and it's just saying, have you got all your move cards? Have you got all your move cards? And I had to explain to him, there's a lot of move cards that burn. Yeah. And he's just like, yeah. And I said, look, I've got my own little escape puzzle going on over here. Don't worry about me. But yeah, it was pretty much from that first one, just going, I need to, and I think I mentioned to you at the start, I was like, I'm going to burn a card. And you're like, don't be afraid to burn cards, it's fine. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I burnt like 4 cards in the first 2 turns. And that led up to the stress of the daddy for the remainder of the scenario.
Yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to burn a card. Doesn't mean burn 4, right? Like, oh, okay, so if I just burn all my cards, it's fine, right? It's like,
yeah. And the other thing
moderation.
Is like, how much do we kill and how much do we run?
Yeah, I mean, like, we had a situation when you open up the second room, there's a bunch of blade spinners and they all jumped in. Now, because I moved first and opened the first door, I was fine with standing there fighting some things. And then they jumped in. Everyone kind of ran out. We had this idea of like, great, we're going to be able to trap 2 of them in here and kill them. Yeah. And that didn't work because the turn that we moved out of the door frame to collapse the room, they were like, oh, we're also coming, by the way. And they so that was a pain in the ass.
Yeah. There was a lot that went right and a lot that went wrong. Like turn one, I got stunned.
Yep.
I got Spitting Drake chilling in front. We all look like we're at equal distance. I happened to go slightly earlier than everyone else, which made me the target. Yeah. And then turn 1, I get stunned, which turn 1 stun we've talked about. You've definitely talked about how much stun is like, it's missing a turn. It's so bad. Turn 1, you play your cards. Luckily, I went first and got to play my persistence. But when I saw the stun and realized it was coming for me, normally when you get stunned, it's kind of, rest time, right? It's like a chance to the rest. There's nothing else you're doing. This is the second round, and I can't do anything. I'm not about to rest for this. I don't even think I can. So playing 2 cards just for the hell of it was really rough. And that stressed me out and also set me back. Yeah. Because all of a sudden, also there's a trio of imps in that room. I don't know if Gemini players have known this, but we have a triangle formation fire thing. We like triangles. When I see them, I get really excited. And I've got an item that also has a triangle formation. So when I saw the imps and they were in a perfect triangle formation, I'm like, this is amazing. I'm about to blow all 3 of these up. And we're going to be so far ahead of tempo and nice and say, oh, but wait, I'm stunned. And I ended up burning a move 4 just to get in position because of the range restrictions with Gemini. This is why I was burning so many cards at the start. Just to get that trio off. And it worked. I killed all 3, right? It was fantastic. But then, that was pretty much did you know this? The 3 that I hit in there, that was the only damage I did all game.
Oh, wow, really?
Apparently, according to the DPS meters. But there's only 3 hits, and it was those 3 imps. Everything else post that was me trying to stay alive and run through the scenario and make sure I had enough movement.
Seems really weird.
That's bad. Really bad.
Having 2 Drakes at the start is rough, and I think maybe that's one of those in hindsight we look at that and go, there is a possibility they draw their stun, it's a late card. If everyone just brings an attack, because Phil killed 1 by himself.
Yep.
If you, me, and Mark had all just gone, hey, we need to not do our normal turn 1 prep thing and we need to just bring an attack, they've only got like 9 life. Yeah. Like, we should be able to get through this one and then no one gets stunned. Yep. But instead we went with like, oh, this will be fine. And we didn't even think about the stun. And then they both drew it. So, yeah, it is one of those you can probably plan around it and like mitigate bad RNG. but then it
Yeah.
sets you back a turn. So what's the kind of balance? Yeah.
And when we first opened that door and you had that we first got introduced to the special rules because of the first stun, because once we kill the 3 imps, once I announce, hey, they're in a triangle formation, I'm gonna pop everything and blow the 3 of them up, everyone progressed to the door to deal with the ancient artillery. So I'm still, because of that stun round, still way back in the room.
Yeah.
You're now opening up the door and going, oh, cool, this is how this works. And I'm all the way back there going, can you hold that?
Yeah.
Hold that open, move 2. Hold it open, move 2. And you're sitting there doing that. The Beyblades are coming in. I'm like, oh, well, no, don't do that. I'm the furthest away. They jump right in front of me, now blocking my movement and making it harder for me while wailing into me, while you're still there going, can I let go of this now? And I'm like, no, I'm still not there yet. So it was like really stressful. Like after, I think turn 1 when I got 2 cards off and then proceeded to get stunned, that was the best time I was having. After that, everything was just stress mania.
Yeah. And it pretty much stayed like that throughout the whole scenario.
Yeah, we just had to alternate who was holding the door.
Who was holding the door, yeah.
And there was some, because once we realized that, we got to stick together, and every room just has a whole bunch of mobs that you got to kill and hold the door, and then more mobs. And then we get to that last stretch. So I can't remember who opened it. Someone opened it and then fell back into the room, and I went in. I'm on 1 health with a wound on me or something like that. I've got like 3 cards left from each form, and we've got spitting trays coming in, and it's just looking super grim. And
yeah, at the end we had a cannon, we had 2 Beyblades, burrowing blades, and we had 2 spitters. And so basically in this situation, you were on 1 life, right? Or 2, I think you were on 2 life. And because of a heal or something, I had an okay amount of health and like some cards. And Mark was also okay. Phil was going to be able to make it out. And we were in a situation was like, okay, if anything hits you, you can't make it. Like you're done because you were down to like 4 cards, 2 in each hand. I'm like, okay, I think I had 2. We used Stu because that was the other pet we had. So we had Stu and Rice Wind, which we'd already used Rice Wind. We used Stu. I used my Stam Pot, got back. I had 4 cards in my hand. I'm like, okay, if I've got like 9 health, I'm going to take 4 hits depending on what they draw. If I can survive this, we might be able to make it. But it was a case of like, I will go here, take the hits. Hopefully good things happen. And then we're fine. Honestly, if the Drakes had done their strengthen turn or the Beyblades had done their not move attack turn, it would have been fine.
We put so much emphasis on what we were trying to do, and then cool, we just need to avoid this the spinning drakes pulling this card. We need to avoid the artillery going at this initiative. Like it was unbelievably stacked against us, and it was Operation Save Me. Mark kept saving me with removing my poison that I kept getting, so I couldn't actually heal or deal anything myself. All my wound that was on me that was going to make me 100% lose a card, and everyone worked so hard to get me out to the point where I got out. I escaped. I made it. But then it just, everything fell apart. And I don't know how. I don't know what happened with you guys. I just know that you and Mark was still way back there. Phil was holding the door open. And it was kind of like we were calculating what was needed, and we needed them to like miss one thing and then would be okay.
Yeah.
Because you and him were going back and forth about your cards and possible outcomes.
Yeah, I think Mark was fine until that last turn happened, and I took a bunch of damage and had to burn more cards than I wanted to. Then it was in operation. How do we make this work now? And he tried a few things to try to do it, but he ran out of cards, and so did I. So yeah, so we were basically like 1 turn and a couple of hits off, like making it.
Yeah. Yep. And we didn't.
We didn't.
We didn't. I think that we just didn't have enough cards to get there, but we were unbelievably close. So close that we won. But we didn't get the rewards for winning.
Yeah. So we talked about it because like we would normally, as we've done in the last kind of month or so, we're repeating these scenarios, even if we get close or not. Working out now we know our strategy, and I feel like this one is much more doable knowing some of those things, right?
Yeah.
But in the sense of trying to keep moving forward with Frosthaven, we want to do a couple more of these side scenarios. We want to do the final list. So it's not so much we're trying to rush through it, but we don't want to kind of spin our wheels and get stuck on another scenario that it's probably not going to be that interesting to redo. Like it wasn't I wonder how we solve this puzzle one.
Yep.
It was more of we just have to play better, right?
Yeah.
And we would do it and then we get done, and that's not really interesting. So we decided to say, from a sense, like, we've wrapped up that kind of chain. We didn't take any of the rewards for finishing it, so we took it as a loss. But we're just not going to kind of, we did it. We had a crack. We know it. We know the story. We read the exit information to kind of see how it all wraps up. But just went like, from a playing perspective, we won't take the rewards and the XP and all that shit. So
yeah. Remember you picked up the treasure chest, and I think did it have loot tokens in it, like a draw loot cards?
Yeah, something like that.
There were 2 treasure tiles, and there was one in the Spitting Drake room in the last one that we didn't bother with. Do you know what was in there?
What?
The extendable pole.
Oh, really?
Now, how would that work with the opening of the door? Are you there holding the stick up and be like, is it your hex?
I think the thing says when the person who opened the door moves out of the hex, the door hex. So, I mean, like, if they're never in it, does that not trigger, or does it truly trigger? Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
It was just so amusing when I went in there and I've gone, no way, the door opener stick is there. And then, wait, how would that work in here? I didn't look up anything about it and see whether or not anyone had some questions about it, only because we didn't get it, so I knew it wouldn't come up. But no, it was very amusing considering we covered that in the one-handed episode.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, that's it. So,
what are your thoughts, Scenario 98?
Yeah, from an escape scenario, I think it was pretty cool. Like, I like the collapsing thing. It creates that
was cool.
reason to escape that isn't just like, hey, get to the end and, because that's what you have to do. So it was a cool timer, but it was a timer you could control. Again, like, once we knew that things were collapsing, it changed the way that we went about doing it. And even in that last room, there was I reckon we were like a card or 2 in our hands off being able to do this, but there was a world in which Phil leaves and collapses the room because all the monsters in the room were on less than 10 health. So it was a case of like, I think if I had one more card, right, it would have been better for him to just go. I couldn't have made it out, but I would have got close, taken 10 damage, would have been fine because I burn a card, and then they all take 10 damage, and then they're dead, and then it's just moving out. So it was a weird situation where, like, that might have been the play, and that would have been cool to use the mechanic to win. So I think it's good. I like it. It was disappointing, and it's one of those I'm trying not to let us falling short impact the experience of the scenario, because I think the scenario is well designed.
I think from an escape point of view, because we've done quite a few now, it's probably up there with one of my favorite escape. Just that tiny change. The mob type, this is the burrowing blades. The fact that, they've picked the furthest, and then they travel all the way through, hitting everything on the way or cursing everything on the way. I think it's another one. I'm thinking of the Matt Summers escape scenario that we had where they were just flying around the map. They're there to, like, on escape scenarios, you don't necessarily want to kill everything, but they are one of the worst things to not kill. So, because they're constantly in your face and annoying you when you think you can't outrun these things, by the way. There's no way you can outrun them.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, anything that you feel like you can just leg it, these are a good monster to put in because they follow you. Correct. Like, there's a good chance that 1 in every 3 or 4 cards, they're going to draw the move 7 that they've got, and if they might have fallen behind, but they're catching up. So
I think for the whole escape scenario, there's the 4 mobs that were in here, Spitting Drakes as well, and definitely Black Hymn's Ancient Artillery. None of them are like, you must kill them. Like, maybe the Spitting Drakes in the first room, but we ignore the ones later. But they're perfect for the escape because you've got that conundrum of, do I kill these, do I not? And they're all horrendous in their own way, from poison application, from the amount of AoE, and also nuking that the Ancient Artilleries can do, and they're immobilized, which will be horrendous in this. And obviously the Spitting Drake was stun and more poison. It's a pretty rough scenario to escape. I just don't think we can definitely do it. We're just not equipped to do it smoothly. Necessarily. We're not doing that again, unfortunately, and we're at peace with that. It was a good scenario.
Well, I can't claim we completed it, but we saw the chain to the end and we understand it. So enough that we can talk about that chain, like, about how it went, how it felt, like, and maybe how it rates up. Because I'd like to do kind of a little bit of a review on some of the chain quests.
Oh yeah.
And kind of stuff like that. So it's kind of, that's why, because I know we talked about once we killed the program director, it's like, do we just not do the rest? Right.
Yes.
And I was like, nah, I kind of feel we've done 2 or 3. We got to do the third one.
100%.
And I'm glad that we got to see it because, yeah, like you said, it was probably one of the better escape scenarios from a design perspective.
Mark's thoughts, we came so close on this. Sure, there was some suboptimal turns, and we were punished at +1, but this chain didn't hit like the first Theo chain. Escape, boss, escape was pretty epic, but our party comp just and relative inexperience with them hurt us. Problem is more on us than the scenarios. Sure. Did Ormius go?
No, he dies in an avalanche.
Oh, yeah.
Like, imagine having to stand there and wait and hold the door for him to slowly move his way through. If he's not getting killed by the Beyblades that are jumping over and targeting him, right, then he's getting killed by the door, like by the room getting collapsed.
100%. Unless you're willing to give up a card every single round from a team point of view. But you have to kill everything too.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, it's literally the card discard because he will never catch up to the point where he'll get to that last room to get killed by everything that's there. So you're literally just burning a card to make sure that he doesn't get crushed.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense, but sure. I couldn't find anything in the community on this. We had our battle goals. Gaz, you booked one of my battle goals, but we didn't know that it was going to be booked, which is really, really unfortunate. I had pedestrian, so I picked that in the beginning, and I was like, yeah, I might be able to do this because I'm so slow. Never enter a hex occupied by an ally, enemy, objective, or obstacle. Now, when a teammate is holding the door open, you kind of have to enter that hex. And I'm not about to say, hey, for personal reasons, can you... Wait, I could have, right?
Oh, I could have moved first, and then you could have moved through the door. But it was, that first door was so clunky because there was like the door, there was obstacles, there was difficult terrain. Like, yeah,
100%. Damage not so important on an escape, but Phil got 73. So there you go, Phil. I will shout that out. The next highest was Mark on 46, and then you and I were sitting on 20 and 23. So yeah, there you go.
Hilarious considering you attacked according to the DPS meter once. Right at the start,
yeah,
I attacked all the way through, but I've also explained how I drew. So yeah, that's about it.
You know how, like, slight tangent. You know how in AFL they have the scores and then they have expected scores. What was your expected damage?
Oh, like way more than that. I mean, most of my attacks are like 4 or 5. Like the way I'm playing the drill is I set my turns up to play 2 cards. So I get my steam pressure up high. That means the attacks that I do are usually either bumped up to the highest, which adds like potentially 1 to 3, or there's one that I've got that just does naturally 5 damage. And then I drop my pressure right back down and I heal myself because I can do that with that and then kind of then bump it right back up. So I'm usually hitting, other than one card that hits for 1 but does a lot of pressure increase, like I'm usually hitting for between 4 and 6, right? If not even higher than that with certain combos. So missing 5 times in a scenario is probably looking at 20 to 30 damage, depending on what the AMD said. So
yeah, and then you multiply that by every scenario, and then you look at your overall effectiveness over a whole campaign.
And if you think about that, Phil draws maybe 4 or 5 crits a round.
Balanced.
So at the table it balances, but his 73 is probably like 5, right? Like, you know.
Yeah. No. The other thing is just quickly on the Gemini, the one thing that I haven't been able to utilize properly, and it probably would have been fine on this, is the perk that allows you to, when you use a lost card, you get to recover a card by removing a card out of your hand of the same value or, you know, or lesser. So I think that would, because that I've got like a move 4 without a loss on it, you know, in a situation like that, I could have probably cycled the crap out of that through some of the losses. And there's a lot of tricks that you can do with that I'm starting to look into. And yeah, so yeah, it's something I'm still learning as I'm going. Half the time I keep forgetting it exists, to be honest.
That's what I did when I played the Gemini. It's really good when you remember it. And it's if you can plan ahead to know what cards you're going to be maybe burn in a turn or 2, then it can be really good for playing a card. then you burn a card the next turn, and you can get the card that you played back to go, oh, you know what, I can use that as a switch, or I can use that as a. So there's again, when you're playing 4D chess, I think it works really well, but I kept forgetting it too. So
even though you got those little new Frosthaven little reminder cards that you can stick in front of you, I keep looking at it going, what does that say? Oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so that seems to be what's happening.
On the perks as well, just before we wrap that up.
Yeah.
If I have my 3 ticker, we win.
Yeah, so you're in this little conundrum where it's like it's worth 3 points, but you never get 3 at one time unless you do a mastery and you level up and you do your battle goal, right? So because of that, you're struggling to invest even 1 or 2 points into something you're not going to benefit from immediately. Is that right?
I've got 2 ticks that I haven't used because we haven't gone back to Frosthaven, and I got the 3 ticks and I got my level up tick. So I have 2 towards the 3, so I could put them into it and then not get anything out of that. I don't know. I mean, I probably will, because I looked at my AMD stuff and I've done enough into my AMD that I think I've got most of what I want. The rest of it's not all that impressive.
Just talk about your AMD.
Oh, no, my AMD is exactly how I want it. It's the cards that come up that are not what I want. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, the 3 ticker, it's just funny because we talked about it last week of, is it worth it? I think it is, but it's a big investment. I didn't have the investment, and if I had it, we would have not lost.
I was listening to an older episode on the way back from work yesterday, and it was actually Scenario 17, Delirium with the altars that you had to destroy because the D-terrorists steal your cards, right? And they were trying to kill that one there, and that was the first time Phil actually, I think, used his 3 perker on the drill. And it was a really funny moment because he shut down, and then everyone was like telling him between short rest and long rest, and he got confused, and then he ended up just getting booked by the skeletons. So it was not the best usage of it, and it was definitely, well, not my fault, but yours or Mark's because of the info that was being given to him. I think it was mostly Mark's. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with this 3 perker and how much it's going to save us, because we can actually say it probably would have saved us maybe twice in 2 different scenarios so far, potentially. But now it's probably not going to have any impact on anything ever again.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Now that I got to wait, and the thing is, I got to wait like another 2 or 3 weeks to get it, because I still have to get another tick, which means either leveling up or getting 3 ticks, which I would have had 2 ticks because I did complete my battle goal. Yeah, but we failed.
Oh, you did. So, nice. Yeah, I didn't go over all of them. I just went over mine because it was funny. Kill an enemy and open a door on the same turn.
Is that true?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So that would have been great, because then I'm only 1 tick away from actually getting my 3rd, which would have been amazing. But no, we didn't get that because we failed. So
yeah, well, that's a wrap. So let's move on to our hits and shits. We are doing boots.
We are doing boots.
So we're basically picking 3 boots that we like. And we think they're cool or well designed, or we want these or something like that, and even if we haven't seen them in game. And same thing for the ones that we just don't like. And people always come at us afterwards. And,
we should do like a mini like not a RADA, but a mini kind of community. We got community feedback based on our last lot, right? Like, most people have been like, yay or nay, cool, that was fine. One person got very agitated by something that I said. And I think it was the long spear and the crude spear, putting them into the same category to talk about, because the long spear apparently is like a gift from the gods and the most OP weapon imaginable, but the crude spear is
hot garbage.
Well, I don't know if hot garbage was the answer, but definitely not the be all and end all when it comes to 2-handed items.
Okay.
Now I will.
Don't you need the crude spear to make the long spear?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I don't know. Makes sense. I will, and as I said it was Dwarf. Dwarf was like, rah, right, But it's funny because he commentates and replies to us as he watches. So I think there was another point later on where he mentioned something, and it's when you were talking about the harpoon.
He shut on my harpoon,
But you were like, "Oh, I hate this. It's terrible." And then he was like, "What do you mean? The harpoon's great." And then someone's like, "I'm pretty sure later on Gaz gets on board with the harpoon." And he's like, "Wait, I haven't gotten to that yet." So it is cool. I love seeing it because it's like a raw reaction, right? And it's kind of how people do those watch party type things. We get to see the reaction to discussions we have. But yeah, with the crude spear and the long spear, yes, I agree. The long Long Spear probably is in a world of its own because it is a refreshable turn and a single hex attack into a 2 hex attack. But I just went from the it allows you to hit something 2 hexes away, which is I feel like the clutch moment of that. But yes, Dwarf, you're correct. That is OP and should be removed from the game.
Yeah.
So
take that, Dwarf. I've got an honourable mention. Do you?
Oh, okay. I have 2. I have 2 honourable mentions, but I don't want to say them in case they're yours on your list.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, maybe we'll cover the honourables later. All right, we'll do it at the end.
Yeah.
Because my honourables aren't best or worst. They're just like different, and I just wanted to talk about them. That's all.
Mine honourables are like the feat items that I think are just the best, which is why I did not put them in my list.
Oh, like busted?
Oh, I just think that they are always really good, but they're boring, right?
Initiative,
they're boring to talk about.
100%.
Pardon?
Initiative boots.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll go through our hits, and then I'll say these are the items that I think are really good, and you might talk about some of these because they are really good. So yeah,
okay,
do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Let's go. So we first have item 151. This is the Serene Sandals. So when you use the basic bottom action of an ability card, perform move 4 instead of move 2, and this is permanent. I think, I think this might even be one of the honorables from a boring point of view, but I think that there are a lot of classes, me included, that may not necessarily use, like this would have been great for the escape scenario that I was just doing, but just movement-orientated characters can get a lot of benefit from this, like a crazy amount. I mean, it's 75 gold, so it's a lot of money. But what I thought about was my Drifter from the very beginning. Drifter has what it calls momentum, the momentum one, which is +2 to your movement. So like, yeah, it's kind of like, do you want to just move 6 over and over again? And I'm pretty sure they had another card that was like, I think, oh no, that might have been Brute. It's been so long, but I think it might have been Brute from Gloomhaven of hit how much you moved. I can't remember whether or not Drifter had that.
Be a Drifter card similar to that, but
okay,
that's hilarious. Yeah, move 6 all the time. Like that's what you do now, right?
Yeah, it just got me thinking of him. But I just think it's so useful on so many characters. I didn't know this existed until I went through the list, so I don't think we have this in our shop, so I'm not sure where it comes from. But I think, Serene Sandals are pretty damn cool, just for such a simple ability with definitely some characters. I mean, even I'm just going to say, even in the Astral with the +1 move and jump, you could be using bottom actions. I've got a lot of bottom actions, but that extra movement is just, fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because the comfortable shoes, which are the move 3 instead of 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, but I don't. I think to take those, you have to have a very specific plan. Like you have to have a character that's like, I don't know. I'm not going to take movement cards. I'm just going to use these when I want to get around. The Serene Sandals, though, are almost, they solve movement issues for any character because I did look, I didn't have this on my special mentions or honorable mentions, but I did look at it. And I think that having +2 movement, nothing else, none of the other boots do that except for one, which we'll talk about later. And having that all the time is really strong. But what I love about it is it's really strong, but it doesn't break the game. It doesn't make, people aren't going to be like, oh man, you're OP, you're taking the spotlight, you keep moving heaps, right? It's like,
what did you say? Moving is one of the the most boring mechanics.
Yeah, it just solves one of those problems. So yeah, from a fact that I usually take boot items to help me with movement, right? So either plus movement or jump movement, those type of things. This is one that, like, I think it's kind of like a sleeper, and it just solves that problem.
Yeah.
And you're right, for a Geminate who doesn't have a lot of good move cards that aren't burns, this basically just says every single one of the bottom of your cards says move 4.
Yeah, I think that's great. I was just thinking about the Drifter example I gave before. Now throw a Snowflake in there as well. And you can just move 8 for like several turns in a row, provided you can. Oh, not several turns in a row. That's not how Bird works. But that's
you throw shards in there as well, and then they get extra. Oh,
what escape scenario? I'm already in the next scenario,
basically. So cool. All right. So the first one on my hit list is the dancing slippers and duelist shoes, because I think they're kind of very similar. So the dancing slippers, this is items number 13 and 38. Dancing slippers, after you suffer damage from an attack, perform move 2, and it's tappable. so
Mhm.
once per rest. And the duelist shoes are 38, which are during your turn perform move 2. This movement must end adjacent to an enemy. So I put these both in the same category because they're like when a condition is met or when you have it gives you a free move 2. Right. I'm looking at this from an action economy perspective of like this is a free movement that you don't have to invest in from a card perspective. And it's kind of out of cycle from when you would normally be moving. I think I never have used either of those, but I think it would be really cool to play around. The dancing slippers would be harder because you've got to wait to get hit and then you get to move forward. But it could be something for your banner spear, your crabs, your kind of characters that want to always be kind of frontlining. It's like that chance to just keep getting ahead, which would be really cool. The other thing with the jeweler's shoes is that mostly for a character who wants to be melee, right? You will want to move closer to enemies at least once every rest cycle. And free move 2 without, again, not tying it to a movement card is really cool. Because
Very cool.
I've got on the drill, and there's other characters that have this where you've got bottom actions that are not movement.
Yes.
They have an ability or like, hey, all your attacks get advantage or +1 or whatever that might be. Because this isn't your movement gets +2, it's during your turn perform a move 2. You're getting around that. You can play a non-attack or non-move bottom, and you actually move forward, which I think it really unlocks a lot of potential on a lot of characters.
Especially if you have a persistent or an ability that increases your movement ability. Similar to what was said earlier with the Drifter and also the Astral. As just the fastest examples that I can actually think of. But yeah, for repositioning, I had Jaws shoes on my hit list as well. Because I like the idea of them. I've got them on the side waiting to maybe craft them once we go back to Frosthaven eventually and stop getting linked scenarios so that I can actually look at crafting them for the Geminate because I wanted to, in those times that I'm in melee form, that would be fantastic to be able to move up to something and just poke it a couple of times just for the repositioning. And also potentially in situations where I need to hit something at 3-4, there's a mob over here that I can now move closer to and then hit the ranged ones in the background. So I just figured that would be something that I'd like to try. So I also like Duelist Shoes.
And I just love the idea of the magical Christmas land need in a situation where you need to move further, right, to get to an escape or get to a key location. You're next to a monster, you hit it with a push 2, it moves 2, you then move and follow it, and you get that extra sneak, that extra 2 spaces. Like I love those little kind of sneaky plays. So yeah, I think that kind of opens that up to be a bit flexible as well.
Absolutely. No, I like it. Well, you can go again. You just
took
one of mine.
All right. Next on my list is number 23, the Sturdy Greaves.
Sturdy Greaves.
Sturdy, not dirty.
Sturdy Greaves.
They might be dirty. So this says, at the start of your turn, add -2 move to all your move abilities to gain 1 shield this round. I did not know these existed. I have not seen them before, but they're craftable, so they must be in the crafty shop. So, 1 shield just seems real good.
Is
like, it? Yeah, like having 1 shield for the whole round. On a
one shield for the whole round, definitely, yeah.
On a character that wants it.
Yes,
all right,
of course.
This is definitely not. This is the opportunity cost. We haven't talked about this, but the opportunity cost of the boot slots is very similar to it is with those like 1 slot items where you go, this has to be doing something you really want to do because it's not good enough if it's just a utility. Sometimes it's fine. So you're not taking this on. We joke, Phil gets hit all the time. Phil's not taking these. Right, even though his movement's really high, so the -2 probably doesn't hurt him, just so he can have 1 shield because there's other things he wants to do with his boot slot. But something that wants to be hit, something wants to tank. There was the ones I think you might have had at some stage, which was the if you don't move or you move less than 1, you get a shield.
1, yeah.
If you move 1, like I feel like this is a bit more flexible than that, because you can still choose to move big. Like if you've got a big move, you could still do it and you can pair it up with some other things. So I wouldn't say it's better, but it just is in a different world. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought it's interesting. And I like the idea of finding more ways of giving yourself more shields.
Yeah. No,
so-
that's completely fair. I just when I was looking through this actual list and I came across those, they were actually going to go straight onto my shit list. Just because I was just like, oh god, I need to find something that I look at and I don't like. But no, you've got some good explanations in there. I did use the other ones you were talking about, which were the steel sabatons, which were at the end of your turn. If you had moved one off your hexes during your turn, gain 1 shield for the round on the Astral when I was trying to tank with it. So when I looked at that, I was like, oh, they're just the way to go. And you're right regarding you can still move. I have not played anything that's moved a crazy amount. Okay, here we go. I played the Astral. I have not moved. Played a character that uses a lot of movement. So in my head, I was like, -2 is kind of bad. I'm not moving basically.
Yep.
So why wouldn't I just use the other ones? But no, I like your points. It's changed it slightly in my head. Yeah, so it's off my shit list even though it's not there. And it's hovering sort of in limbo. Okay.
In limbo. Yep, that's fair. What have you got next?
I have something that I picked up recently and incredibly late in the game. This is item 199, Opulent Shoes. I'm in a weird spot on this item because, well, for starters, it's 30 gold, and at the start of the scenario, consider yourself to be before your summons in initiative order when determining monster focus for the remainder of the scenario. This is phenomenal for pet classes, basically, summon classes, when you are trying to keep the pets alive. I haven't played a Bone Shaper. I don't know how much they want their pets to stay alive, if they're happy to sacrifice them because they keep getting XP from it, or if they're meant to be meat shields and that's it. But for those times where you want to keep your pet alive, and I'm thinking like the Snowflake Fox, where it kind of has this built into it, I'm glad that there's an item for it. Right? Because once I got this like one scenario before I retired the Astral, and I was like, where have these been my whole life? This has been my biggest problem, is keeping Cassandra the Sword alive. Yes, you can resummon it over and over again. I don't want to. I want this alive all the time. I want it next to me, hitting the enemies while I take the hits for it. I'm fine with that. I think it's very cool. But I think my issue with it is, it's not that it's too strong or anything like that. I think that it is so niche and so good for some people that immediately it becomes best in slot. And anyone who knows it exists, who like Astral players who are using the sword, you kind of need to have it. I don't like the fact that it's kind of, that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, like I played the Prism, which has a lot of pets, and I played a melee Prism that wanted to get in there. And one of the biggest issues I had was I wanted to be targeted, not the pets, because I wanted to be in there fighting and have them fight as well. These would have solved that problem.
Yeah.
And you're right. I don't know. Like I end up going with initiative boots on the Prism because that way I could always guarantee that I could go first, which allowed me to reposition things because of that. But I could see a world where these is how you'd go with that as well. So yeah, it is interesting. You're right. There's a point in which something becomes too good for a particular build that means that you have to take it.
Because people who would be, if they know this exists from, I don't know, a guide or the community or something like that, or someone to say, hey, by the way, you want these, then you have to find them. And these aren't like straight in the shop. It came from a scenario treasure tile, which means you may never, if you don't do the scenario or you don't happen to loot it, you may never see them, but you know they exist. And all of a sudden you feel like your class can't do what other people are doing with it. Right? So I don't like when an item becomes way too dependent, but because this is a hit, because it's a hit, it's something that I really, really liked for it. It's just a bit of a double-edged sword from a, how does it feel in the game versus how do I like the item?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is so good that those classes are not complete without it, but you definitely are right. If you were looking up a guide, I'm like, hey, what kind of stuff should I look for? And this was on there and you read it, you'd be like, I want that. I feel like because I can't have that, I'm missing something. So yeah, it's an interesting balance. So
take us home.
All right. My last one was the Volatile Boots, number 33. Where are they? I'll scroll through.
They're right
Up
there.
to once each turn during your move ability, add +1, then flip this card over at the end of your turn.
Oh, what happens when you flip it, guys?
Up to once each turn during your move ability, suffer 1 damage, then flip this card back over.
That's terrible.
At the end of your turn.
You don't want to hurt yourself.
Oh, some people do. So I just think this is again, if you're talking about efficiency or effectiveness of item slot, as long as you're a character that doesn't mind taking damage, like you got the HP, or you could want to, like, you know, the some of the characters like the shackles, you can probably get +1 movement 2 to 3 times per rest cycle out of this. Because as long as you use it, right, and then next turn take the damage, and then next turn use it, and then take the damage, like that's 6 turns, give or take. All right, but you know, like I said, 2 to 3 times you get use out of it. It's pretty good. Like, plus, if you could have +1 movement every other turn, right, that'd be something you take. And I think that the 1 damage would add up, but that's what I mean. You got to have someone that either A, has the ability to heal it back, or is like 1 damage. It doesn't matter. You're one of those tanky characters with really high HP. Who cares?
My mind immediately went to fists.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, exactly. There you go. On the fist doesn't really care. I mean, maybe it does, because then it's overcommitting into that like HP being a resource pool, because that's what it does. But that's, again, within your it's manageable, because this isn't you gain wound where you have to have it, right? This is a optional thing. So, you know, it's within your control, along with all the other bits and pieces that the fist does. So yeah, that's a really good call for a character.
I think Frosthaven or the Haven series, they need to invest more into these flippy items, because we haven't really invested into many of them. And I think they're a really cool concept, especially when they are designed in such a way that you've got a positive and a negative. I like that cost and that 2-button memeing kind of you know, decision. But I think it just opens up the door to some really interesting ideas.
I think the problem I've seen with the ones we've had access to is that it's not so much the positive and negative, because I think you cop that, right? Yeah. It's been the ones we've seen have been like 2 different positive effects, where one of them is irrelevant to your character. Like, I think you got one on the snowflake, right?
Yes.
Right, which was, one side was amazing and the other side was almost impossible to trigger. So it's not so much that one side's good and one side's bad. It's like one side works and the other side I can never use, so I can never get it back to that side. So it basically becomes a one-use item, and then as a one-use item, it's no good. So it's like this weird, like, I'd rather them all have a positive and negative.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So that you can weigh that up and go, I'm fine with that negative. I'll trigger it when I want to, and then I'll get the item back. So yeah. It is good.
What didn't make that list, or what are you? What's honorable?
Oh, the winged boots, so the jump boots.
Okay, yep.
Right, there are any character, but basically, other than a couple that have heaps of jump, okay, could always use those, and they're really good. Okay,
yeah. I've had a few characters that didn't. Sorry, I've had a few characters that gave me jump option cards as I was leveled up, and I ignored them. So yeah, boots are really handy. That they can do that.
And the boots are speed, boots are quickness.
Yeah.
Right, like most characters can find some reason why they want to go before everyone. I think, again, it's more relevant on certain characters that really need to get in before the monsters do their thing, especially things like Retaliate, summon characters. There's a couple of others. But I feel like as standout items, those 2 or 3 are like really good, but they're boring to talk about because, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of like from the next slot, the Amulet of Heal 1. If you're like, oh, I don't know which boots to take, it's like, just pick one of those. Like, it'll be useful.
Yeah.
You know, so, that's why they're on the kind of special mentions, but not talked about.
Yeah. Well, I've got one on there. It's kicking boots. I love the idea of these. I think when we opened to discuss them, it was like, oh my god, and they're just so shiny and they're clean. They're not looking like they've kicked a few things. But yeah, during your melee attack, add move 2 to 1 attack, and you can just use this every rest cycle just to kick something. Push 2.
Push 2.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said move 2.
Oh, sorry, push 2. Yes.
Yeah.
Dwarf's
exactly.
Dwarf's already paused it, and it started time.
They're gonna rage.
But just the fact that they even named them aptly. Like, you literally walk around, I'm just picturing you kicking things in the shin, and they're just like, oh, and they're moving backwards too. It's just like that kind of hurts a little bit.
Yeah, they're the Jason Stratham of boots, right? Like, they're just kicking everyone. So I imagine them on the traps. It's like the trap running around doing these little ninja kicks as he kicks like all the monsters into the trap. So they're cool. I like them.
Yeah.
All right, shit list.
Off you go.
Oh, okay. So number 54, the restful slippers.
That is also my first one on the shits list.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. So I'll give you my reason for it, and then I'm interested to know yours. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the ability sounds cool. Like I like that idea. It's a different way of push your luck, right? And it kinds halfway between a long and a short rest. The item triggers off a short rest. And
How do you get it back, guys? How do you get it back?
That's what I mean. It's tappable. Like it's like it's so frustrating because it means that it's something that you can use every other cycle.
Yeah.
I know you can invest items into refreshing things, and maybe that is some kind of like combo that you do. But I don't know if the benefit is worth taking a second item to make this usable again on your next short rest. I don't know. It just seems like a cool.
What if they increase the cards you can choose from? What if they increase the cards you can choose from 3 to just your whole deck? Doesn't change anything?
I don't think so. No, I mean, because if the card said when you short rest, you can choose like you would a long rest, but it was only usable once per scenario. I would. That's cool, and I like that, but I wouldn't take it because it's not worth the boot slot for it. I think the benefit of this is that it's reusable, but making it reusable is very tricky. Like there's hoops you need to jump through. So it's just like slightly off. And I think the power level of being 3 cards is the right place for it because it doesn't make it certain, right? It just says have a go. And you can maybe not discard the card that you want to, especially when there's one card that I don't need you to pick, right? Or 2 cards I don't need you to pick. That means picking 3, you're guaranteed there's one that you can take. But then you never get it back. So I'm like, I just did that once per game, per scenario, and it's got a little tap icon on it that I can't untap it because I'm not going to long rest. But yeah, I don't know.
The only other thing I'll say about this, because yes, I agree with all your points, and I actually had a very similar write-up on why they were here, is these are going to be the hardest things ever to craft because of one ingredient.
A snow thistle.
Correct. We've learned over our whole campaign that, and it was funny seeing how often herbs drop and how often you're rewarded certain herbs and all that kind of stuff and which herbs you get. A lot of the items that we're looking at and a lot of the potions we're looking at, it seems to be snow thistle seems to be like the most precious of them. And I don't know if anyone else's experiences or other groups' experiences have been different, and maybe it's floppy dick, otherwise known as earthroot, that they are, that's the rarest one. But we have found that snow thistle is by far one of the hardest ones for us to find. So therefore, would we burn a snow thistle to make this?
The reason why I think that's come up recently and it's been an issue for us is that we've had a few new characters all start at the same time, and it's both the healing pot and the stam pot that take snow thistle, so they're pretty core potions. And I mean, the stam pot is pretty powerful. The healing pot is very useful, but not having any snow thistles, like, oh, I guess you have none of those, like. So yeah, it's like someone like, I want to craft these cool boots. And you'd be like, no way, we're making healing potions out of that shit, right? Like, yeah, I agree. Good pickup. Oh, so I didn't even notice the crafting things. So,
so yeah, what's your next one?
My next one.
Can we trifecta this?
Oh, if we manage to perfectly align, is the bone boots number 71.
No.
Okay. So after your ability where you kill an enemy, perform move 4, and it's a lost item, so once per scenario. I mean, move 4 is cool, but like this seems to be the kind of item, right, that you would have, and you'd either always forget it, right, and be like, that's right, I can move 4, or you do it only because you remembered it, and it won't be very useful and not good. Like you're like, I killed that thing. I move 1 that way because I can. Right? It just seems that, again, for the slot it's taking, if you have a movement issue, there are so many other items that you can take that are easier to get that you would take instead, rather than the one. And if it's not even tappable. Like if it was, I don't know, if it was not tappable, like so reusable, potentially once per rest cycle, then I can see that being pretty cool. It could be a part of your build. It's like, I'm going to try to get last hits on things so I can get this free movement and kind of keep my momentum going. Even combining with things like the helmet that gives you the +1 attack like when you move 4, there could be a cool combo of like, okay, on my turn, I use my top action or my bottom action to like kill something, and then I move 4, add +1, and then use my top action to do a big hit. Like some kind of cool combo there, but it's like, no, just once per scenario.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. So yeah. That's why for me, they're just like, that's just too niche and not good enough.
Yeah, they're fair. I'm wondering how core they are to some characters that I haven't played, like Kelp or something like that, where what I call these kind of items, especially the burn ones like this, they're black hole items, and it's kind of like, do I pop it now? Is there a better opportunity later? So this is where it's.
Can you explain the black hole reference? That's
black hole, sorry. So black hole is a ultimate ability from the game Dota. It's one of the characters that has it, and ultimates basically when you use them vary in their cooldowns. This is an extremely long cooldown, so a lot of the time, and it can be completely game changing. So if an Enigma character, which is the character that in Dota that actually has black hole, they've got like a 3-minute or 2.5-minute or something like that cooldown on an ability, you want to make sure the ability is going to be good when you land it, and it's an ability that grabs all the enemies within range of a certain area of effect and basically stuns them and damages them over a period of time. So very powerful, but easy to interrupt. So a lot of players, what we call a black hole kind of situation is, if they see 2 enemies coming towards them and the team's ready to fight them, they're going through the, do I bother? Do I not use it? No, I don't know if I should use the black hole here because it's got the long cooldown. So that's kind of what I refer to when it's like, do I burn this to use the Moon 4 now, or is there a better opportunity later? And it's saving, and a lot of people run into the issue of saving the abilities instead of using them when they should probably use them to turn a fight, get tempo, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like, and I can see, I don't know, Kelp and Blingblade as 2 examples of using it, but is it going to be worthwhile compared to, like you said, every other boots? I think boots that operate outside of your ability cards are good, like the ones we mentioned at the very beginning regarding the jeweler's shoes, is that you get to use them during your turn that it's not part of your ability cards. This does the same thing, but yeah, it's a burn, it's a move 4. There's definitely going to be niche uses for it, but yeah, I can see why you put it there.
Yeah, thinking about the Blinkblade example, I think that's a good point, because if, like, say Phil does this a bit where he'll early on run right up, hit a bunch of things, and then he kind of gets stuck there. Because he gets his free movement at the start, he gets to move back. This could almost be his get out of jail for when he does that and doesn't have a way of getting out. But again, you can just plan better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving it enough credit, and there are some like good uses, like a save yourself type use for it. But it just seemed a bit too niche.
Well,
anyway.
the other requirement is you have to actually kill it. So if you don't kill something, you're not using it. Even if you plan the perfect turn to actually use the actual movement and your gas, it's not happening.
Well, that's it. It's useless for me because I can't kill stuff, right? Because I have a 100% chance of drawing the null. So yeah. All right, what do you got next?
I have item 63. I have Shadow Stompers.
I had them.
So
they're my third. Yeah, they're my third.
Yeah, okay. So let's see if our reasoning lines up. So during your move ability, you can consume Dark to add +2 to your movement, and it is tappable. All right. At first, I looked at these and I was just like, "Oh, these are pretty good, especially on Dark characters." Obviously, the Kelp can generate Dark every turn because of a persistent card they have, so they always have it on call when they need it. And then you got Astral for tanking, summoning, etc. That's the only one I actually use Dark. I think. I don't think it's the worst, right, item, but there are a lot of other items I like more. The issue I have with these is that you generally, when you create an element, you're going to want to use it for an ability. And if you're consuming it for this, just to add +2 to your move ability, I don't know how worth it that is, considering, you're not using it for an ability. And that's what makes it kind of awkward. Because, number one, you're already limited to the characters that use Dark. Right? So you're not going to build this on a Snowflake or anything like that. I'm waiting for the Snowflake mains to say to me, are you kidding me? This is best in slot. Right? Because you just get an element potion and pop it, and now you get +2 to your movement. But yeah, if I played more Dark base characters, I may be able to get a feel for whether or not it feels right. But in the meantime, when it's that restricted to one element that you may or may not use, I just think it's incredibly niche. And again, you're giving up the ability, potentially.
Yeah, that's where I landed on. In order to use this, the turn before, you have to know that you want to use it so that you can generate Dark, so that you know that next turn you're going to want to move 2 extra spaces. There are boots that allow you to move 1 extra space. So that means that situation, one extra space wasn't enough, you need the two. And that seems very niche.
Yeah.
Right. That you're needing to move 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that in a turn and know the turn. Yeah. The only I didn't think about the character because that was it. It's like generating the elements is tricky most of the time, and the characters that generate them generally want them. I feel like Kelp and Coral both have in excess of dark element. Kelp way more because you're right. It can just choose to do it every single turn. So
that was going to be my next question. As a Coral player, would you, because you would be able to see the use of this, and you could turn to me and go, "Oh no, these will actually be pretty good on my kind of Coral." I was just curious about that.
Maybe. I mean, the movement on the Coral wasn't amazing, but I didn't think it really needed to because you always had the flexibility. You're playing 3 cards almost every turn, so you have the flexibility of just playing an extra move card. So I feel like there is a world where this gets you out of that. But I can't even remember what boots I used on the Kelp. I think it was jump boots because you almost have no jump. So it just meant the positioning was a lot better. So yeah, you could probably make use of this because all of your bottom tide cards produce dark, and a lot of times you don't have spenders for them. But at the same point, like I'd never found I was like, damn it, I'm always 2 movement short of where I want to be. So yeah, it's just because it's 2 and there's things that give you 1. Right, there's items that there are no hoops to jump through and give you +1. Like there's an item literally next to it that says during your move ability gain +1 and regen. Like that is all the time. Once per rest cycle, just do it. Yeah. And so I can't see a world in which somebody's like, damn it, you know what? +1's just not enough for me. I need the +2 all the time.
That's right. But if you're one of your worst enemies are night demons and you want to deny them the dark, here you go. Get this.
100%.
And then you can use that as a counter to any enemies that utilize dark.
Yeah. And these are the kind of items or abilities I'd love to see as a burn once per scenario situation in a not key slot. Like a, eat an element.
Belt slot.
Yeah, correct. Like eat an element, eat dark, gain +2 to your next move ability. Like 1 per time. So it's got that extra, you haven't invested a lot in it, but it's got that extra utility of like a night demon or whatever. There's another one that it makes dark that's really bad. Makes dark, and you're like, okay, cool, well, I've gone after them because they always go really early. I'm going to eat that. And I don't really need the movement, but I've now consumed it, and I didn't really have to take an item slot, a really important slot. So I like the utility of that, but just yeah. Cool. That was my third one. So you give us your third one.
Yeah, and we can't do the trifecta, so
no, because ruin that.
Yeah. I have item 180 to round me out. This is Boots of Greed. It's 35 gold. Whenever you loot 2 or more loot tokens at once, perform Bless Self. 2 or more. Did you have this?
No. Okay. I didn't have this. I did see it, and I considered putting it in my hit list from an interesting perspective, but I'm interested to see why you think it's shit.
Well, look, if loot's the focus, sure. You can fill your deck up with blesses, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like there are other options that offer so much more with easier requirements than that. It's because you got to loot multiple, like at least 2.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes is going to be very hard to line up half the time, especially if you're greedy and other people are like, hey, stop eating everything. But Bless is also not an immediate reward. So, there's a chance you never even see the benefit of it due to RNG. So if you replace the Bless with a Strengthen, a Ward, a Regen, or even a Heal like 3, because the requirements are still quite tricky, right? To be able to loot 2, unless you're piling them up or using your loot 1 cards effectively. But if it was something like Strength and all that, I'd probably pull it out a little bit. It's more the fact that, it's all you're getting out of it is maybe, it's not even filling your deck with blesses, because that's provided you can meet the requirement consistently enough.
Yeah.
And all the other brutes we've talked about, like as in the good ones, right? Regarding movement and other interesting things you can do, even the everlasting ones you mentioned before that aren't on any lists. With them +1 and regen,
which are amazing. But by the way, just really good. Just have more movement and healing.
Unbelievably good. Yeah. But yeah, this is
Yeah. I completely agree with that, and I think that it is tricky and you need to build your whole character around consistently being able to loot 2 tokens, which probably means finding a character that has a really good loot 1 card, right? That is not has to be not stationary, because otherwise you're spending a whole turn standing there doing nothing. It's almost got to be a move and loot. But it also has to be a card that does something other than that, because if all the card said was move 1, loot 2, gain bless, you might take it, right? Because I think that seems pretty good. But at the same point, it's also not driving you forward, because you're right, it's the RNG element. So move 2, loot 1, bless is great, but then there's still the condition there have to be items there. So you can't just use it every cycle. And that's where this becomes a bit of an issue. And also people get grumpy with you because you're taking all the loot. Because you would have to. If you took this and it had a character that would work that out, you'd have to be like, guys, every rest cycle, I need to make sure that I'm taking those 2 loot tokens.
Yep.
Which everyone could be fine with, but yeah, I don't know. That's why I think you're right. Yeah, it's. I think it's a cool ability. I wonder if like strengthen would be too powerful.
Look, probably, but again, you've got the still of the loot restrictions from even finding them. I mean, yeah, and then of course your party. So if you're playing solo, you can definitely probably utilize this more than other people, because you can definitely stack the deck and you can sort everything out yourself if you're playing solo 2-handed or 3-handed. But I just think, yeah, like if one of us took this, I think it would be a problem. Yeah,
definitely. Although no, we'd established this over several weeks that nobody in our group loots, so I'm not sure why it would be a problem, right?
It's a very good point.
Maybe we need some of this. So cool. Oh, that's it.
What? Your shit's done?
Yeah, I told you I chose bone boots and shadow stompers.
Oh yeah.
So
and restful slippers.
Yeah, so we're the same on restful slippers and shadow stompers, and we had one difference. So yeah.
Good. Well done. We're getting better at.
By the end of this, we'll just be picking the same things. It'll be boring, right?
Oh, that'll be terrible. All right, the new meta is like, I'm going to go for something Gaz definitely won't pick, and you'll be like, yeah, you'll do the same, and now we'll be locked in together.
I'll look at the ones which you won't pick.
Yeah, pretty much. And with that, we will wrap up episode 83. Thanks for tuning in to another Dirty Day with Gaz and I. Remember to vote on our Crimson Scale party group. If you know nothing about the game, your vote's just as important, so we can discover everything together.
And if you know someone who played Crimson Scales or Gloomhaven and didn't really listen to this because they didn't play Frosthaven, throw them a link, a recommendation, right? That's the best way to get people to join and listen and enjoy and get more people in the community is bring people in that you know. So tell someone.
Ooh. Tell someone. Until then, I've been your host, Eddie. I've been joined again by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, just be me.